Welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, and I seem to have gotten lost in these really dense woods, and I don't know where I am, but I think I hear Matt Brandenburg coming from around the corner.
Yeah, just cursing and cursing you all for making me read this. And there's also a boar behind me.
I don't know about you.
What's Matt going to do about that boar?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like near a lake. I'm going to swim out that lake and I'm going to fight a troll.
Yes.
So today's episode, we're going to be discussing The Laws of the Skies, which I think is Matt's favorite novel of 23. I'm joking. This is a really heavy book with a pretty intense discussion. So I feel like we should just put the warning beforehand. We're going to be talking about children dying very horrible deaths in this episode.
Yeah.
So if that kind of bothers you, like, we typically don't put content warnings with our stuff, but I feel this is a very touchy issue for listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And if this bothers you, we understand if you can't listen to this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be tough.
If it doesn't bother you, yes, it is. And if this doesn't bother you, it is a really good book. It's just not a book I'm going to reread anytime soon.
Yeah.
Nope.
It for people, like, obviously we're not going to go into graphic detail and we're not condoning what's happening in here. So, like,
Yes, we are.
We're just letting you know that it will be discussed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we will be disgusted.
And we will be. It was something else to read this next to my own children. Not to them. I should preface that.
Yes.
I wasn't a bedtime story.
But did you read the mouse story to them?
No, I didn't even do that.
Come on. You should have just read that to them and then wait for them to ask, like, why? And then you're like, because.
I mean, to be fair, that mouse story was one of the best parts of the book. That story was that was so creepy.
So creepy, and it's like, why?
Yeah, why?
Like, what was the purpose of this story? And we never know.
Yes. All right, good. I was going to ask that once we got to the discussion.
But before we talk about all these dead children, we should talk about some good stuff and some media that we consumed in this last week.
Yeah.
So I finished a book the other day that I think, actually last Sunday technically, that I think is going to be one of my best reads of 2023.
Oh, nice.
And we're coming to a start.
Yeah. It's Everybody Knows by Jordan Harper. I legit read it in a day. I couldn't put it down.
What's it about?
Is what?
What is it about?
It is about a woman named May, and she's kind of like, I forget the full term for it. I think they call it the black bag PR. And what she does is she works for a firm that celebrities hire, that if someone fucks up or there's a secret that might be getting exposed, or a newspaper has a hit piece coming on the celebrity that exposes a secret, her job is to make sure that secret doesn't get out.
Okay.
So she's been protecting bad people doing bad things for a very long time. And there's another character alongside May, and he is named Chris, and he's an ex-cop who's been kicked off of the force for being a little bit too violent for makes the police look bad. And he works private security, kind of roughing up people for celebrities, and also deals with the same types of people that May deals with. At the beginning of this book, May's boss pulls her into a private meeting, and he's hinting to her that he's come across something big, and it's a secret, and he wants to let her in on what this is, because they can both make big money off of this. And the next day, he's dead.
Uh-oh.
And May is trying to figure out who killed him and why. And then Chris is also caught up in it because the people he's working for are tied up with May's business. But Chris is also like, this looks like it's a gang shooting, but none of this makes any fucking sense. Because it's this kid who has a gang tattoo on his face shooting a guy on camera. But, like, why would a kid with no prior gang history have a gang tattoo on his face murdering somebody on camera that everybody can see who it is? So to him, he's like, this makes no fucking sense. So he starts looking into it. And then him and May kind of meet up and they kind of tackle this together. And it takes them all throughout the skeezy underworld of Hollywood and the wealthy celebrities that live there.
I like it. That sounds amazing.
It is fan-fucking-tastic. Like, I legit could not put it down. Like, even the opening, like, Jordan Harper, like, just the first paragraph, I was sold, and I couldn't put it down. It opens up with, where is it? This is the first two paragraphs. Los Angeles burns. Some sickos torching homeless camps. Tonight they hit the tent city in Los Angeles, in Los Feliz near the 5. The fire spread to Griffith Park. The smoke makes the sunset unbelievable. The particles in the air slash the light, shift it red. They make the sky a neon wound.
Nice. That's
like,
awesome.
It's just really fucking good writing.
Yeah.
And a really sharp dialogue. And it's just, it's a complete 5 out of 5. And I found out he's working on a sequel.
Huh.
The sequel's going to come out, I think, next year, hopefully. But so I'm excited. I'm excited to see Harper get more books published. He put out She Rides Shotgun years ago.
Yeah.
He's been working in TV. He was working on Gotham for a while. There's another show he was working on. He was running a TV adaptation of LA Confidential that got scrapped.
Huh.
But he wrote and filmed the pilot for LA Confidential. And so this is his first book since She Rides Shotgun. And then he said May's story is going to continue in the next book.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Done. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And after finishing that, because I like punishing myself, I started two books. And I'm in the beginning of both of them, and they're both long, so I might not give it updated until maybe 2 weeks from now. But I started reading The Shards by Bret, Easton, Ellis.
Oh, wow.
And The Deluge by Stephen Markley. And these are both big books. Like The Shards is like 600 something pages. The Deluge is near 1,000 pages.
Holy crap.
The Shards is the most Bret, Easton, Ellis thing I've read in a very long time, which is fitting because it's Bret, Easton, Ellis. But it's like, are you familiar with his work at all besides American Psycho?
A little bit.
American Psycho is the one we all know because that's like the big horror one.
Yeah.
So in 1983, I think, or 84, he published Less Than Zero, which was his first novel.
Yeah.
And he was 21 years old when he published it. And Less Than Zero was him at 21 writing a fictionalized version of his last year in high school going into college. The Shards is Bret Easton Ellis at 58 writing a fictional memoir about Bret Easton Ellis's last year of high school. Wow. Him and his friends are partying. He's kind of discovering that he's gay and is kind of discovering his own sexuality and doing way too much cocaine because, it's LA in the 80s, baby. His friend turns up dead and more bodies end up missing. People end up missing and more bodies appear and they realize there's a serial killer that's targeting people that move within Bret Easton Ellis' social circles. So you have a teenage coming-of-age story mixed with a slasher murder mystery that's masquerading as a memoir that is complete fiction.
Amazing.
And that's The Shards. It's really fun. Like it's a really good read so far. It's very detailed. It's what you expect from Bret Easton Ellis. He gives way too much detail over everything because that's the whole Bret and Ellis is just everything in excess all the time. But it works really well. Like, the narrative's interesting. I'm curious to see like how the serial killer stuff kind of works in more. Right now, the main characters, like, Maker's biggest struggle right now is the fact that he is dating a woman but is thirsting after her dad, and that's the big narrative thing right now.
Okay.
And then the Deluge is, I can't even like describe, but it's pretty much, it takes place over I think 35 or 40 years, and it follows a group of people and their connection to a grad school student who was studying global warming and sent a terror, like an anthrax scare in the mail. And the different people he comes in contact with and kind of how they all kind of tied together in the struggle of trying to warn people and educate them about global warming and kind of their successes and their failures over like 35, 40 years.
Huh.
So,
nice,
you know,
nice easy topic.
These are happy reads.
Yeah.
They're very light and like fun and all the good stuff. And I think I might save a little bit, but I did start the Junji Ito Maniac anime on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
And maybe I'm too harsh, but it's been very hit or miss for me. However, when it's good, it's fucking great. I just would say if anyone's interested, watch episode 3, Hanging Balloons, the best episode of the show so far.
So because I haven't watched it. It's all just like anthology, just like his stuff where you don't have to watch it in order.
Yeah, it's an anthology. Like most of the episodes are two stories.
Okay.
Some of them are one story. So like Hanging Balloons is just one story because that one's longer. Toontown's one story because that one's longer. The Tomy one's one episode because that one's longer too. But then there's like 2 episodes. There's one mold. That one was really good. And that one's gross. So if you want your gross Ito molds, if you want your creepy tongue Ito ice cream truck.
God.
It's pretty much what you'd expect from an anthology show.
Yeah.
And like even Ito's manga, like we think of Ito, we always think of his best stuff. We think of like Uzumaki and Gyo and Tomy. But like Ito's short stuff is a whole bunch of different genres kind of mixed together. Like they're all kind of horror. Sometimes they're very funny. Sometimes they're very serious. Sometimes they're just gross. And like he just kind of goes in different modes, and the show kind of echoes that and what you'd expect. I just think Ito's work loses something when it goes to the Asian screen. But it's hard to adapt comics and like or manga and like actually like, especially someone like Ito who's very detailed and very particular with what he does with his manga. It's translate that.
Yeah, it's hard because like when you look at his graphic novels and stuff like that, you control when the page flips, so you can kind of sit and look and kind of stick with an image.
Yeah.
And obviously with a moving, I don't know what word I was going to say, but a moving picture, they're kind of forcing the time, so you don't get to stick with some of the images of people. So
yeah. I also, before this, I got a little bit this week. I also watched Sick on Peacock.
How is it?
The COVID slasher that's written by Kevin Williams, the guy who did Scream.
So is it just Scream but without Scream?
No, it still has its kind of like satirical comedic elements, but it's a straightforward slasher.
Okay.
The Scream movies are straightforward slasher with satirical elements too. So it's similar to Scream.
Yeah.
But it's about these college kids who are supposed to go on quarantine because like they've been exposed to COVID. So they go to their roommate's house to just like quarantine for a weekend, and these masked strangers appear at their house and begin trying to murder them.
So it's almost exactly Scream. Okay.
And then there's a twist that I won't spoil, but it still follows that kind of like slasher whodunit formula type thing.
Wait, I know what the twist is. It's actually COVID in the mask, right?
No, it's not.
Oh,
I mean, twist if you want me to.
No, it's all right. It's fairly new, right? So
It's kind of clever and like kind of funny at the same time too. Like it's meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek as it kind of goes through.
I think Matt just wants to read the Corona romance story.
I was just picturing that. I was like, all right, you take that story and then you make it into this horror movie where it's actually just a giant germ in a mask and people are like, oh my God, it's real. That might be more fun.
You need to be in a certain type of mood to watch that, though.
You are correct.
It's like you cannot go and just like see it with a serious face and be like, "This is horror, huh?"
Yeah, the mask comes off and it's just a CGI blob, and it's like, blah.
Or it's like Jason and Bob Strikes Back when they unmask his face. It's a monkey.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. We're making it sick. 2. Sicker. Sick 2. Electric Boogaloo. But I also 2 more, and then I'm kind of spent for the week. I did watch one of my favorite slasher movies last night, Malevolence. Oh, nice.
You guys ever see Malevolence?
I think I did.
It's a trilogy. All 3 are great. The first one's actually the weakest, only because of it's the guy's first movie he ever made on a budget of $200,000 that he raised himself. And the actors are all kind of amateur actors. But the premise is cool. And the kills are kind of cool.
Nice.
But the premise of the first movie is many years ago, a child was kidnapped by a serial killer and watched him murder many, many women. And then 20 years later, a bank robbery happens, and the bank robbers end up having a split in 2 different ways. One of them ends up carjacking a car with a woman and a child. They all make it to this house that was their meetup plan, and there's a stranger in the area who has a mask on and is murdering the people as they've shown up in the area. But they become kind of paranoid because they think their partner was backstabbing them. So instead of your typical teens partying, it's like bank robbers that are holding a hostage while they're being picked off by a serial killer because they've kind of went into his area. And the second one's actually a prequel that had a bigger budget, and Michael Bihn's in the second one.
Nice.
And the second one's kind of a prequel to how the killer got so fucked up. And then the third one came out in 2018. And what's impressive about the third one for me is these movies, the first movie takes place in 99. The third one they filmed in 2016. And they had to get all the set designs to make everything look era accurate for 1999.
Nice.
And like they nailed it. They nailed it so good.
Just a bunch of posters of the Matrix.
Well, they remember those old Apple computers with like they had like the curved fuck, what was it called? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think they were just the iMacs.
iMac. They got a bunch of those in the movie. They got like the clothes are very era accurate. Like they really just kind of nailed the late 90s feel of it.
Just a bunch of Kangol hats and
I will say all 3 are on Peacock, and they're very much worth watching. I would highly recommend them. And then last but not least, I watched The Last of Us.
Oh, buddy.
Which, did you guys see The Last of Us?
Nope.
You're killing me.
I'm gonna do even worse. I haven't played the game, so
I haven't either.
Honestly, okay, I will say this. You don't need to play the game to enjoy the show. The show is pretty close to the game, though. I will say that. And the pilot was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where it's going to go. I know one episode makes a big change from the game, but the rest are pretty close to the game. At least narrative-wise. They had to change a few things because there's one episode where in the game, it's literally just you wandering through this guy's town that's all booby trapped. And that wouldn't really make a good episode of TV. So they had to change things around for that one to make it fit better for TV.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But so far it's really good. It's pretty much, it takes place in 2037, I think. No. This was 2020. No, I mean, it was 2023 because they brought time back. So in the games, it takes place a bit further in the future than the show does.
Oh, okay.
The show
That makes more sense.
2003, and there's warnings of like this. There's strange things happening in the world, but no one kind of knows what's going on. They're all just going about their life, and then an outbreak happens, and people begin eating each other, and infection begins spreading, and the ending of, I won't spoil the ending of the beginning, but something crazy happens. Then it fast forwards 20 years, and it follows our character Joel, who is surviving in this post-apocalyptic land that's been ravaged by a fungal outbreak. That when people get infected by this fungal like infection, it takes over their brain and turns them against other humans. And the goal is to spread the fungal infection further and further and further. And Joel's like a survivor fighting back against it. And he's tasked to transport a little girl named Ellie, who could be the key to saving the future, because slight spoilers, but they reveal it in the first episode, so it's not that big of a deal. She's been bit, but she's immune.
Yeah, I heard of that. I've heard,
So-
I know about the premise.
So then they have to travel across the country to deliver her to a hospital where they hope they can turn her immunity into a cure. But that's all I'll say because shit gets crazier from there. But I will say the show's really good, and I think both of you would enjoy it.
I'll probably watch it one day. I just have
Yeah.
too much. Too much. I'm trying to catch up on lots of other stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep current. I kind of gave up on some of the stuff I'm trying to catch up with.
That's
I
fair.
do have one show I'm hate watching, but I'll save that for after the podcast is over. Matt, what about you?
I don't have nearly as much stuff. The big thing I read this week, and like I almost finished it this morning, which is Corpsemouth, Jonathan Langan's new one. It came out in 2022 from Word
I
Horde.
have that book right next to me.
It is amazing. What else do you expect? John Langan just killing it. And it's funny because we talked last week, and maybe you'd brought up where Laird Barron's one of his collections, and you're like how they're all basically just novellas. This is this is a little bit like that too. A little, it's a little mixed. There's some shorter stories in here, like 20-page stories. So now, not too long. But then there's other ones. That,
short stories still always have to be 20 pages,
yeah, those are like are the breathers as I was reading this, because most of them are like 50, 40 pages, and so then when you get to 21, you're like, holy cow, I can burn right through this. But it's super good. There is a bit of a theme that I've been picking up on in this, which is a lot of kind of parents and children. So like, either we're coming from the child's perspective in a story, or we're coming from a parent's perspective of a story. And so it's kind of interesting to just kind of look at all those different ways of how he can tell that type of story. And then there's also, I would say music is another one in this that I've been finding. It's a really interesting kind of look at different, like, just, made up songs, or like there's a whole story about this band that can that somehow channeled this music where you could kind of travel to this other, world, this other just black city, or this city on a black ocean. And there's these watchers that wear these giant bird masks and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, but the only way to get to that is just to be kind of constantly listening to this one cassette tape. So that, so stuff like that. So I think that's kind of, the two themes that are coming through on this that I really enjoy. The title story, Corpsemouth, which is really funny because I feel like I've read it before, or a version of it in Ellen Datlow's Haunted Nights, but it's not the same because this one deals a little bit more with this giant, like, I don't know, it reminded me a bit of Attack on Titan, actually, where it's like this like our main character is in Scotland after his dad passed away, and so his immediate family go to Scotland to visit his dad's extended family and just kind of, chat and reconnect. And they get a story about Merlin calling up this giant dead zombie basically to eat some enemies, and now it sort of keeps coming back. And so it reminded me a bit of like one monster from Attack on Titan instead of like a horde of those giant zombies. So it's still very good. Just, what we talked about with Laird Barron is the same here, where his stories are just really expansive and very covering a wide ground, and the horror kind of just slips in as you're getting these kind of like drama-esque. Drama's not the right word, but kind of this like literary story about a family reconnecting in Scotland and looking at all different things. Or there's another one in here where there's a librarian who she retired and she aged really rapidly when our main character meets up with her later, and you find out she's got this book that allows you to travel to parallel dimensions and stuff like that. But most of the story is just kind of about this librarian and her terrible life of like her daughter had died from a heroin overdose, and then her husband left her, and then all this, like, so you get like all these other things, and then you're like, oh, there's this empty journal that was sliced from Odin's eye, and when you touch it, it allows you to go to another dimension, but that dimension sucks the life out of you. And so it's like, oh crap, where did this come from? So anyway, long story short, it's a great collection. I mean, obviously we love John Langan, so it's going to be great, but I'm just really enjoying this and just taking my time in it. But again, it's kind of longer, short stories, so it does take a little while to get into everything and kind of go through it, but highly recommend it, Corpsemouth. And yeah, I think that is, man, this week, that was it. That was the main thing for me this week.
Perfect. Vitlame.
Well, I've kind of been on the same boat. I'm still listening to the audiobook version of No Drowning for Gods by Hailey Piper. And it's getting really, really interesting right now. And I'm really enjoying what is happening. And she is, throwing out the twists also at the same time, which I really, really like. And it's in that Hailey kind of way that she's really good at doing.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying it. I think I have about 3 hours left of it, so hopefully I can finish it tomorrow. But so far, so good. It's good. And like with Rich, I also started the Junji Ito anime. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. My favorite episode so far has been the Hinking Balloons one, which is my favorite story from his collections.
I think you're enjoying it more than I'm enjoying it.
Well, you seem to imply that I like suicide, but it's just I just like the visual appeal of it.
I mean the anime. I don't mean that episode.
I do understand. Like, I do understand where you're coming from with how it's difficult to transfer it into another media, and I agree with that. There are some in the videos. There are some in the episodes. There are some things that look kind of like hasty.
Oh no!
Did you get to the CGI?
It's basically the CGI is shit. It's like why would you CGI a car? But yeah.
I was just gonna ask, like, why do you think because the rest of it's just what animate it, like 2D
Yeah.
drawing, right? So why do
cutting budget? They're cutting corners.
Yeah. It's basically that. And it's like, okay, you could have just not animated maybe, or I don't know. Just leave the cars there just to be static.
Like the second episode when the ice cream bus leaves the second time
yeah.
and watch it turn the corner.
Yeah.
And clearly a CGI car
It was
that's
so clunky.
in the panel at all that's moving in a really low frame rate.
Mhm.
I'm like, it doesn't work. It's so bad.
It basically looked like a mirage. You were like, that's not the same resolution there.
Oh my gosh.
One of my favorite episodes is Toontown, which Tomb hasn't officially been translated in English, the manga yet. It comes out soon. I'm excited to read the original manga. But the anime adaptation was really good.
Okay.
But oh my god, the ending has the worst fucking CGI of the entire show.
Ah, crap.
It's so fucking bad.
Yeah,
like,
so
Episode's so good, but that bit is so fucking bad.
yeah.
Like I paused it and stared at my TV, and I'm like, how did people go through this and think this is okay to release? Like how?
Yeah. This is I think this is the thing that most, like, if you were more acquainted with reading manga like I am, this is what I usually find at fault when watching anime.
Yeah.
It's the production values are probably not as good. How they're drawn, it's not as like accurate as it is drawn in the manga. And also just like maybe with voice actors, you didn't expect that kind of voice. Like in the first episode about this Addams Family-esque family. The eldest brother, Kazuya, I think is voiced by Mamoru Miyono, who voiced Light in Death Note.
Yeah.
And also voiced Tamaki in Oran High School Host Club. And I just thought that was a weird fucking choice.
Also, if you're going to watch Junji Ito Maniac, I'd say, like, I'm not picky when it comes to like sub versus dub. When there's a Japanese anime debate, a lot of people are like Japanese subs only, but I think there's some really good English dubs out there. That being said, Maniac's English dub isn't bad, but the tone is very off.
Mm-hmm.
And Japanese dub, the tone fits much more what's happening on screen.
Yeah. So far I am viewing it with an open mind because I haven't seen the other Junji Ito anime. So
this is better. Trust me, this is.
Yeah. I've heard about it. So and it's also kind of making me excited to see Uzumaki when it comes as an anime, because I'm interested to see how they're gonna put that, like, because that is a really good book. And I'm interested to see how they're gonna deliver all the subtle horror in it.
Is it the same company that's doing this?
I think it's a different company.
Yeah, it's a different company.
Adult Swim is behind the
Maniac.
No, Adult Swim is behind Uzumaki.
Oh, okay.
So Warner Brothers is producing Uzumaki.
Okay.
And it's being put out by Studio Drive, and I don't know much.
They've been putting some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: the guy who's directing Uzumaki, he directed one of my favorite animes, so I have hopes there.
Yeah.
He directed Mushishi, which Mushishi's fucking great.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
So I have faith with this guy behind it, especially with Mushishi.
Okay.
Uzumaki's only going to be 4 episodes, and that's it.
That's a disappointment.
we'll see how it is.
Yeah, they better have it 1 hour then. So yeah, I've been watching that. We're probably gonna continue watching it tonight. I actually had some free time yesterday because my husband was on a work event, So my schedule was free, so I decided to watch 2 horror movies.
Uh-oh.
This is one that I had been like a little bit excited to watch. It was in the cinemas maybe 2 years ago, I think. Freaky.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was a fun one. I liked Freaky.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun, and it's a nice, it's a fun, quirky horror take on Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
And I really liked Vince Vaughn in his role as the girl.
I thought
because he is huge, and you're like, wait, so you're gonna play a 15-year-old girl? Okay, then. And he does it with such good awkwardness that you're like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's believable in a way.
We're so used to Vince Vaughn being in comedies in like the mid-2000s, early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
They use perspective to hide how tall he is.
They did?
Yeah, like I never realized how tall Vince Vaughn was until I saw him in True Detective season 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, this guy's tall.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like they literally would. It was like much. It was very subtle, but they always subtly hit his height for like how tall he really is.
So it's basically how it's like they do it in the reverse with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So yeah, I really enjoyed Freaky. Especially, I like the deaths. The deaths were colorful and inventive. Especially the one where she killed her carpenter teacher.
Yeah,
I like that, and I kind of also like the fact that even though they had switched bodies, the serial killer had to kind of like embrace the fact that he was in a little girl's body, like a teenager's body, and he didn't have the same strength. And I really enjoy the fact that he was like, oh fuck, I'm not as strong as I used to be. Well, gotta get inventive then. And he does it really well. It kind of occurred to me when I was watching it that the carpenter was the guy in Ferrell Bueller's Day Off.
Oh yeah, yes.
Right? It's him, right?
I think so, yeah.
He hasn't aged that well, unfortunately.
No.
Which is okay. I mean, it happens.
Yes.
but yeah, I enjoyed it. And I also like the ending in which because this is a horror movie and you're like, come on, he's not dead yet.
Yeah.
Like you need to double tap it,
Exactly.
always head.
Always hit the head. How can you not know this? But I enjoy the ending, especially with the combined effort of the mother and and her daughters. It was like a morbid bonding for them. And I really like that. So yeah, that was a win for me. I enjoyed it. And then I did the horrible mistake of watching Paranormal Activity Next of Kin.
I'm sorry.
Not
Thank
good.
You. No, all of the Paranormal Activity movies are horrible. I'm probably the only fucking person that does not like these movies and cannot understand for the life of me why they're so fucking popular.
I will say I had a good time seeing the first movie in the theater, but I have not revisited the first movie since I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
So I can't really say anything other than that I was entertained by it, but I also felt disappointed by it because everybody hyped up like this movie be super scary. Yeah. And I was not really scared by it.
Yeah. I was not even entertained by it. I was super bored.
Oh, I was at least entertained.
Basically all the movies are like that. And this one tries to make it a little bit different. Like it doesn't really look like it's completely found footage,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because they have better equipment because they're making a documentary.
Oh, geez.
And they use drones and shit. And I'm like, wait, so fun. And it happens during COVID. And I'm like, wait, exactly what I needed to escape this fucking hellscape.
I didn't even realize that. What number is this one?
This is the latest one.
Oh my gosh. I've only seen the first one and I had no interest in seeing anything else.
I think it's the 5th or 6th one. I don't know.
Holy
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. This fucking franchise needs to die.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what? It's probably really cheap to make.
Well, I mean,
I have no idea.
The production values were a lot higher in this movie.
Oh, okay. So they put
because it wasn't based on just one house like it was in the first movie.
Oh.
In this case, they are going to an Amish community.
Oh, jeez.
And there's something happening there, because the Amish, they are so fucking weird and closeted, and they don't want people to know what they're doing. And it's like, wow, you hate the Amish, don't you?
Wow.
But yeah, it was so predictable. Like, we knew exactly what was going to happen, and the characters were not interesting. And, the ending, again, was so predictable, just like all the other movies. Like, they all had the same thing. And I'm like, wait, so are they they're building a demon army? Is that what the fucking last movie is going to be about? The old demons that have been summoned in these fucking movies are going to join up together? That's my premonition.
Wait, now, have you seen all of them?
Yes, unfortunately.
So is this all hate watching for you?
Yes, this is basically hate watching. I thought, this one was kind of hopeful watching. I was hoping that this one would be better, but no, I shouldn't have put my hopes up.
So is it a different demon in each movie?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, so maybe you're right. It's like the Avengers.
So the demons together like Voltron style or something?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember, like I said, because I hate these movies so much. I've kind of blocked them out of my memory.
You should watch every one.
I don't wanna. But I know that it all has to do with some fucking demon. So I don't know if it has if it's the same demon or if it's or if it's different demon. But this one had a name at least that I remembered. And I was like, it was so fucking typical. I was like, yeah, it's Asmodeus. And I'm like, oh yeah, the demon of greed. How interesting that the Amish community is, summoning him. Because, they are devoid of greed. Sure.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was a hate watching for me, basically. It turned out the evening was good and hey, Freaky was awesome. And then it was I hate everything.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, but isn't it? Unfortunately, I think it's time for us to.
Yeah, I think we're diving in.
Talk about some French kids.
Yep.
Oh gosh, yes. Somebody say his name. Gregory something.
Gregoire last name. French last name.
It's French. I can't pronounce French for the life of me.
Sorry, everybody. It's like Courtois or something like that.
Yeah, Gregoire Courtois.
We're not making fun of his last name. It's just this is a very intense book, and so if we can find some laughter, that's what we're gonna do.
Mm. Yeah, we're not gonna be laughing a lot in the discussion of this book.
Yeah. I mean, all right, so
try to make some jokes.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't appropriate, though.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I want to say one thing before we get in, though. Every single quote of this book I've seen is Winnie the Pooh meets
yes!
Eyes, and that's the worst way to describe this book.
It is. What the fuck? Winnie the Pooh meets the Blair Witch Project? What the fuck? Yeah, that's the weirdest fucking combination I've ever heard.
Yeah.
No one, I feel like people who are trying to describe this book are they don't know horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is kind of like they're lost in the woods, which is what Blair Witch Project. Christopher Robin finds Winnie the Pooh.
No,
Yeah.
this is like I mentioned. This is basically Lord of the Flies on crack
Yes. With
Yeah.
6-year-olds.
with 6-year-olds instead of 12.
Yeah. So even worse. Yeah, I'm trying to that like Winnie the Pooh comment. Like, are they saying this was all like made up?
I have no
don't know.
idea.
Because like Winnie
Just
the Pooh, you know, he imagined it's imaginary woods, and so they're all imaginary things come to life. But like, there's no, for listeners and for us, there's no magic or anything happening in here. It's all just brutal reality. So yeah, there is no Winnie
This
the
is
Pooh.
just a very dark book. Like the best way I could describe this book is if Jack Ketchum wrote Lord of the Flies.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what we'd get.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's you know, like, so basically, I mean, you guys are everyone's getting Lord of the Flies-esque. I mean, it's a school, it's like a class of 6-year-olds going out into the woods with a teacher and 2 assistants or parent, like 2 parents. So I mean, it's just like yeah, 3 adults, and they go out into the woods for a couple days, and then one of the kids is insane and murders one of the teachers. Right? And this happens very early in the story. Murders one of the teachers, and then that's it. And now we have, and of course, because it's a story, we have one of the teachers had to go back, or like, and of course, like, even back up further, like the bus dropped them off in the middle of the woods, and then the bus left, so they had no cars.
Nope.
Yeah, the bus is coming back in like a day or 2 to pick them up.
Yeah.
They're camping. They're going camping.
Yeah,
And,
it was like an extracurricular thing that like they were like supposed to know because they had to experience the wildness of the woods.
like that. This might be a Massachusetts thing, but in Michigan, did you guys have nature's classroom when you were like in middle school?
What do you mean by that? Just like go out to like?
So they had a program in middle schools in Massachusetts called Nature's Classroom, where during the spring they take a class, I think of 5th or 6th graders, and you go to the fucking woods and you get like a cabin and a bed, and you just like interact with nature. Like I guess the shark eye. You learn like about what plants are poisonous. That's gonna come back later. What plants aren't. You just do like all that shit.
That sounds like, very hippie. No, we did not.
It's weird, man. So like my school never did this, but apparently some schools will like wake the kids up at night and have like a reenactment of the Underground Railroad.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
My school didn't do that unless I'm blocking out a traumatic memory that I don't know if it happened or not. But I know someone who did go through this, so
no, we did not do that. Let alone when we were 6. That's like, in perspective, that's probably like 1st grade. Okay, so these kids are young. And
yeah, I think he originally wrote the kids older in the book, especially Enzo. Enzo feels like he was written to be older.
Yes.
And then he aged them down to make things more shocking.
Yeah. I mean, like, even before we even get to any of the craziness, if you've been around a class of 6-year-olds, you would think there should be more than 3 parents, 3 adults, I should say. You can't. Anyway.
This Matt might be a cultural thing here because, or basically a European thing here because, kids are really independent in Europe.
Well, that part's fine, but like if you wanted to organize a group and take them out somewhere, you would think you would want, maybe not feel like more adults than kids, but you would think you would want a couple more adults than what they brought here, because like you never know. If you have like 3 kids that are being crazy, you're gonna have to go take care of them. And then what's going on with all the other kids?
I mean, I agree with that. I'm saying kids nowadays, they are sturdy as fuck. and this is basically, I think, it's meant to show, resilience and independence and everything like that. But I agree with the fact that they definitely should have been more, chaperones, because like in the case of what happened in the story, one of the chaperones actually becomes violently ill. She has a stomach bug or something like that.
Yeah.
And it just made me think like, but what if like 3 kids at the same time got the stomach bug? Like, what the fuck are we gonna do then?
Exactly. I think overall the teacher was insane for thinking this was an easy thing to do.
What I think is, and Rich and I, we discussed this a little bit after he finished reading the book, is that I think, and Rich I think so as well, I think, is that the children were supposed to be older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense for not having as many chaperones.
Yeah.
Because then they can take care of themselves more. But for some reason or another, Gregoire wanted them younger.
Yeah.
I just think it's more shocking that they're younger.
Yeah, I think so too.
To be fair, some of the kids do act like 6-year-olds.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not like that's what's weird about this. It's like there's scenes where the kids definitely act like 6-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other scenes where they're definitely not acting like 6-year-olds.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That makes sense as I kind of think back through the scenes. Is that because there are, we'll get to that too, but they're like our sort of main kids that we kind of follow. They all act like, I would even say at least 10, if not a little bit older than that. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that happen in this absolutely makes sense for if a 6-year-old was lost out in the woods. So like that part works, but then some of the other things too, you're like, all right, well, I just feel like that would be an older kid making that decision and mm-hmm. doing the thing. So
and you can also kind of get that feeling from Enzo.
Yes.
100%. I have a feeling that I think was supposed to be older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get more into the story and then we can kind of talk, because it is some of the his thought process and his actions,
mm-hmm.
make you think of somebody a little bit older.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
One thing I will say about the beginning, because we mentioned the teacher being killed by the student. The one scene at the beginning that had me on edge was the drunk driving scene.
Oh God, yeah.
Like that entire scene, I was like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Now you're dead. Okay.
And again, this is the cultural thing, or it's basically a France thing. They drink a lot of wine there, and they don't find it weird to drive after a couple of glasses.
Oh no, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I know, he knew, but it's still at the same time for someone like me, like the driving laws here in Iceland, like they're super fucking strict. Like you cannot even drink beer, like 1 can of beer and drive, but you'll get fined for that. So just that scene, I was like, I was the same as Rich. I was like, this is not gonna end well.
It's the same in the States. The drinking laws or drinking and driving laws are different from state to state, but it's kind of don't drink and drive is don't do it.
Just don't fucking do it.
Massachusetts has an open container law, where if a police officer pulls you over and sees an open container, that they can use that to search your car and assume that you're drunk, even if like a passenger left a can or something. So like it's so strict to the point where like if I'm buying a case of beer or someone I know is buying a case of beer, we just put it in our trunk.
Yeah.
So if pulled over, we won't get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it makes sense. When my family and I were in Florida, my mom was gonna buy a case of beer, and she had let my younger brother hold it for her while she picked up other stuff, and he stood like right next to her while they were getting the items checked.
Yeah.
And the woman was like, "Nope, you're not getting that beer."
Yep.
And my mom was like, "Wait, what? This is for me? It's for me and my husband." It's like, "Nope, because your son is there. Nope, not a chance. I'm not selling it to you."
Oh my
God. There's very strict like alcohol selling laws in the States.
Yeah, it was weird. Like my mom was like outraged and like so scandalized. And my older brother, who's like 8 years older than my younger brother, he went inside and was gonna try to buy the beer, but the woman was paying attention to us. He's like, "You're with them, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, I'm not selling you anything."
Oh, that lady just sounds crazy.
It was the same like when we were in Universal Studios.
Yeah, like in Massachusetts, if you go to a liquor store, let's say like Matt, you, me, and Vitla may go to a liquor store, and I'm the only one buying beer or any type of alcohol, they'll have to card me, and they'll have to card you and Vitla May because together. And if one of you don't have an ID on you, they can't sell me the alcohol.
Oh, you guys!
I mean, you'll be fucked anyway because they probably wouldn't take my ID valid because like, hey, what is this weird looking thing? It's an Icelandic ID. Yeah, fuck no.
No, if you have a passport, they take that.
I'm not taking my fucking passport with me everywhere. Fuck that.
Oh, that's funny.
That's how strict the laws are here.
Crikey. All right. Well, Michigan's not so bad. We go up to a party store. Half the time they check, half the time they don't, and then you leave. But anyway, it's funny when you bring that part up of this book because I feel like another title for this book could have been Murphy's Law. Yeah. Because everything bad that possibly can happen happens to the adults. Like you said, the drunk driving thing. I mean, like it's one of the three for listeners. One of there's the teacher and then the two chaperones. One of the chaperones gets sick. The other one calls her husband. Her husband just like as soon as he dropped them off at the school or whatever like that, went home and drank like a gallon of whiskey or something.
Well, his wife was depriving of like the joy of drinking.
Yeah. So
like, he in his older age, missing the joys of his youth, so he got fucking shit.
So he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go and do my best to pretend.
But don't forget the fact that that was his plan of getting shit-faced and watch porn.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, great guy. He does drive. He makes it to the woods, picks up the lady
I'm
that's
surprised
sick.
He made it to the woods, honestly.
Well, because the Murphy's Law is he's got to kill both of them. He can't just kill one of them. He's got to kill both people. And not only does he have to kill them in a drunk driving accident, the drunk driver has to be sexually harassing the woman next to him while he's doing it.
Reminds him of an actress he saw in a porno movie.
Exactly. It's so fucking messed up.
So
and it's like the entire time, like during that scene, you're just thinking of the poor woman. Like she has the fucking stomach flu. She just wants to go to a hospital and get checked out. But no, she's stuck in a car with a drunk driver who's actually feeling her up while she's trying to stay conscious.
So Murphy's Law.
And then to go on Murphy's Law, the woman who called her husband to pick up the other chaperone, she forgets how to get back to the camp and gets
lost.
Her phone's dying. And she gets lost.
So And this runs throughout. We'll get to another fun Murphy's Law part, but it's just when he was writing this, he's like, what are all the worst things that can happen? All right, first of all, let's change these kids to 6.
It's just like worst case scenarios. Let's drive that up to a fucking 10.
Yeah. Let's make one of these kids a serial killer.
One thing I will say about this book though is like the suspense and atmosphere of this book were really fucking good.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Like tense, like through the roof.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like it's one, and I think Rich, we were talking about it last week before we started recording. It's what could have worked in this book is if you didn't have this serial killer element, because if we think about and everything else that we just said that they shouldn't do, if you didn't have if all you had were a group of 6-year-olds lost in the woods, all the things that happen to them are very real things that could happen. I mean, they're 6. They don't know to not eat random berries they find in the woods. They think they can swim across the pond to possibly get to something. They think the highway's over on the other side, but it's a lot bigger than they expect. All of these things totally make sense idea-wise for a 6-year-old and is frightening and totally would have worked as a story. But then we had to add in this kid, this Enzo kid who kills the teacher, and we see into his mind and everything like that, and we get this serial killer element that's sort of, I don't know, on top of everything else, I don't think it needed to be there.
No, but I think like if that wasn't there, maybe that probably would have been gone too similar to Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, that's fair.
And also, they needed to, maybe amp up the horror element a little bit more, because this is, like you said, this is like what would have happened, but it's, I hate saying this word, mundane, or basically realistic. So they needed this kind of shocking horror element to it.
Yeah,
which is Enzo.
Yeah. Who's something else. And again, like you said, feels like he should be older.
Yeah.
His mind, and this is where I was kind of thinking about too, where it's like we've seen and we've read and we kind of know the idea of, this serial killer, like when they were a kid, they were killing animals and they were, or torturing animals and stuff like that. So like, so we get like that concept. That's like a very real concept. But like in here, you're kind of like, well, this kid just ramped up everything super fast and decided to just be a serial killer.
He did smash his teacher's head open though.
God.
Yeah.
I feel some of this was a little over the top.
Yeah. I mean, the reasoning behind he killed the killer was because he told him off and scolded him and told him he wasn't supposed to speak.
Yeah.
So he smashes his head in with the boulder.
Yep.
And then stalks all of the kids.
Yeah. I will say, though, there was a scene after he kills the teacher when the kids are hiding in the dead tree.
Oh, yeah.
He's calling their name. That was some really good tension.
Yeah. I mean, like, and Ori, yeah, because like even like we get this little setup of him killing a bug at the beginning, really like creepily, and like these 2 girls kind of get him in trouble, and so he's like gonna stalk these 2 girls. And
I mean, he was starting to bug one of them, so I think.
No, totally.
He was like pulling on their clothes or hair or something. It was just something like what a typical boy would do. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So like, that, which is like a great setup, and that gets us like kind of in him doing a stalking thing. It just, again, it's like as a 6-year-old, you you would think he would have lost attention pretty quick at doing what he was doing. And even like some of it just gets premeditated where like he does. Yeah, maybe I'll save that. But like he does, there's a couple things he does where you're like, all right, this is somebody who like is way more intelligent than what we would think of a 6-year-old doing.
Yeah, which comes back to the fact that he probably was supposed to be older.
Yeah. So.
I will say, going back to like after they kill the teacher, is once night falls and you get a bunch of 6-year-olds stuck in the woods at nighttime.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. and not just only that, it's just so like, okay, so the scene when he kills the teacher was really graphic.
Yes.
And you know, and you kind of had to pause and like in the same similar horrified way as the kids who were forced to watch that happen.
Yeah.
But what also struck me as just like it was a gut punch was like how the first 2 children died. Is how Gregoire basically just said it in such an offhandish way.
This the what? The ones that didn't they trip? Is this
no? The ones that got hit by a car.
That one was I felt Gregoire was trying to be like kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like he was trying to be funny, but in a fucked up way.
Yeah, it's like that fucked me up.
Where it's like, oh hey, let's wave down a truck. Ping. The truck driver stepped out, tried to find the animal he hit, saw nothing, and drove away.
Yep.
Yes. Oh God, it's that. And again, Rich, we were talking about this, but it's that scene in Devil's Rejects where the lady is in. If you've not seen it, lady in a hotel, she's getting attacked, tortured. She escapes. She's running for freedom, and a big truck smashes into her. And that's so. Like I kept as soon as that happened in this book, I was like, oh, he must have watched a Rob Zombie movie because this is the exact same scene. Because you're like, oh, they're in freedom. That's the whole point. Like all the kids are like, we gotta get to the highway because we're positive somebody's gonna come back and get us. So if we just get to the highway, we'll be fine. And once they get to the highway, they get smashed. So
yeah.
But that scene, and then there's this. So 3 kids again. Read a little bit older for a part of it because it's
the 3 best friends.
Yeah, there's 2 boys and a girl, and while they play these fantastical imagination games of killing dragons and trolls and all this stuff, they also have this kind of like teenage love triangle where they each sort of love the other person, but then like the way they agree with each, it's that type of friend triangle. That scene, like, so you got them all like going back and forth with each other, and the girl's like, oh, I'm gonna swim because one, I think there's something on the other side of this pond, and she can't make it because she's 6 and it's a bigger pond. But like, it just, the way it's described is so tense and harrowing because they can hear her saying like, I can't make it, I'm tired. And you're just like, fuck, get her out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the worst
each scene just becomes horrifying after horrifying after horrifying, and you're just like sitting there hollowed afterwards.
Yes.
The worst too of that part is like, well, she's getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and then like the 2 boys are ashore, and the whole time one's pushing her a bit more than the other one is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then when they realize she drowned, he just goes to his friend and goes, "You killed her.
Yeah.
And it's your fault this happened." And it was like a big gut punch, but also felt such a realistic thing like a kid would do. Like, this is your fault.
Yeah.
Like, you killed her. You did this.
Yeah.
So
when she volunteered to help them get across, and they realized how far Ed actually was, because they're 6 and they didn't realize.
Yeah. And what I also liked about I think it was Hugo. at the end of it, and I'm not gonna spoil the ending, not quite yet, but during the end, like he is still like just wondering like why the fuck this is happening to them, because they're kids.
Yeah.
This is not supposed to happen to us. We're kids. We're supposed to be led by adults. Where are the adults? And you're like sitting there like, I don't know. Why? Where are the adults?
Yeah.
Like, this is so messed up.
Oh, it's just so like it's so hard because he kind of breaks it all up into different groups, and you have Hugo, and he's got like a bigger chunk of kids with him, even though he's a child himself.
Yeah, but he's basically, they've dubbed him as their leader. Like because at one point in school he stood up to Enzo.
Yes.
So it's like he's like the natural leader thing, but he's like the reluctant leader at the same time. It's like, I'm just a kid like you guys. I'm not fit for this.
Yeah. Which that just reminded me of what was it, We Are Legend, when they were talking about that. But yeah, so again, it's just like no good luck for them either, because they eat the berries and then they end up getting really sick and dying, and it's just all of it.
Berries. Hugo's like, I don't think we should eat those berries, and those other are like, yeah, no, we're gonna eat the berries because they're berries, and Hugo's like, I wouldn't trust those, and then die because it's poison.
And because
you're putting that mildly, Rich. They just die. They die an agonizing death.
One of the worst deaths in the book.
Worst deaths ever. It was just horrible too. And you can imagine me, like I listened to the audiobook of this, and there was like
worse because it was the audiobook.
Yeah, and it was like an older man.
Describe it to you.
Yeah, and it was like an older man who was narrating it, and just through his words, listening to him describe it was horrifying.
I mean, it's a really fucked up scene.
It's so bad.
Like,
and it's just can you imagine just being the only kid there, like with the other one, they're like standing there watching their friends just get bloated and just like. Ugh.
This goes on for pages.
It does, and this is not a long book.
Pages of just describing them trying to vomit, but they can't vomit anymore. They're like shitting everywhere. They're sweating. They can't breathe.
They're convulsing.
Like it's no detail spared. You get every single detail. What they're doing.
And it's horrifying to watch, an adult person being like have that happen to them, but it's so much worse when it's 6-year-olds.
Yes.
Just... I can imagine, Matt, you probably hugged your kids a lot after this.
Well, and it's just, again, like, it's so hard to, like, kind of, I mean, from multiple angles. One, imagining that age and, like, that thought process, and, like, again, thinking about some of the things that they do in this, and you're kind of like, I just can't imagine. And then you like give the parent side of like, yeah, that's just insane that it was just the 3 people there, because a group of kids is just wildness. And then it was a roller coaster ride.
I mean, the 3 chaperones could very much be a European thing as well.
I think it was just him, the same thing of him aging it down to 6, is he needed a way to get those adults out of there as soon as he could.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm gonna write it this way. But yeah, I mean, like, what I'll say is he does, as horror, all tough as it is to read it. I mean, like, if you need an example of how to write descriptions of somebody dying from eating poisonous berry, he goes into great detail, and you feel it when you read it. So like, it's done really well. It's just horrifying to listen and or read to as you're going through it. Continue.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, like, and I think that's where I was talking about earlier with like that, or with there's a couple kids who slip and they fall and they break legs and sticks go through them, or they hit their heads, and all of those things are described really well, and feel, I think he did such a good job with those parts that it was so tough when you get to the other stuff.
Invokes the visceral elements of this.
Yeah, because I mean, like it's so easy if you're out in the woods to do one little dumb thing and have a terrible thing happen to you.
Yeah.
So
what I found interesting though is like as you mentioned, Matt, like this story probably would have worked a lot if Gregoire didn't put Enzo there with everyone else, which I found interesting because we don't see him killing a lot of the kids.
No.
There's just one child that we get details of him killing.
Yeah.
And he does it in a really like. He didn't do it in such a violent way as he did with the teacher.
Yeah.
So he basically strangles the child. And then the other child that he killed is off screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting that he's there, but at the same time, as we've been discussing, he could have been taken out of the formula.
Right. Like you could have easily made you could have followed the same concept with the two with the three, and then have one chaperone get sick, the other one go and get lost. And the teacher could have very easily slipped, fell, tripped, I don't know, something just to knock him out, and then that's where all the things happen. But like the one thing we're kind of, I mean, well, there's a couple we're skipping, not spoiling the end, but the other thing we haven't like talked about yet, which is there's a 3/4 of the way through, there's like a break where Gregor's talking to us, the reader, which is an interesting idea. He basically kind of like we've talked about with that first story we read this year, the girls are dead, I think.
Yeah, the meta narrative.
Yeah, where he's like, you guys are reading this, you know what's gonna happen. Why are you continuing to read this? This isn't gonna end well. It's an interesting choice that I can't decide like if I would have wanted more of or not at all.
I mean, he basically planted that in the readers with that first sentence of the story. When he basically says, "Oh, by the way, all the kids die in this book. Yeah. Like nobody lives." Yeah. And then of course your curiosity is piqued, and you're like, "Oh, wait, what? Why? Yeah. And how?"
But then it's also you already know how it ends, so like you partaking in reading the book more is kind of like making you complicit in what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is such a interesting thing to do.
It's kind of, have either of you read The Girl Next Door?
No, I know about the event.
Yeah.
So well, I know what happens, so I feel like I don't need to read the book.
Even with like the event, like one thing I'll say about the book is the main character, like the narrator of the book, he like hangs out with the neighbors, and he's friends with the girl before all the horrible stuff happens, and he's there while the horrible stuff is happening, and he knows what's happening is wrong, but he doesn't know what to do. So he spends a lot of the book kind of not knowing how to tell people this is happening.
Yeah.
So it makes you as the reader feel complicit in what's happening to the girl.
Yeah.
But like, is he talking to us?
No, he's not.
Okay. I mean, like, I like that idea. That's a great concept.
Direct fourth wall break.
Yeah. Yeah. The fourth wall break in this is an choice.
It is, and I think, and I'm jumping back into the importance of having Enzo in the story. I think, and this is just my interpretation of it, I think the reason why he felt the need to have Enzo was because.
Or Enzo.
Well, no. I think it was because he wanted so badly to have that boar scene.
Yeah.
And
he did.
And he did not want that happening to the good kids.
You are so right. That the whole story is based on that part. I'm sure of it.
Because like with all the things that was happening, there was like this huge need for vindication, and this scene was basically delivered for us.
Can I say one thing though? I'd agree with you there's one thing that makes me see it a little bit differently.
Okay.
When the boar is eating Enzo,
Mm-hmm.
the perspective changes from Enzo to you. So the boar is eating you. So you become Enzo. Right? Because that's how it's doing the narration. It becomes second person once Enzo starts being eaten. It becomes you.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that as him making a commentary on the fact that we stuck through this book. This is kind of
so this is basically our punishment?
Yeah, for giving him money to buy this book.
For giving him money to buy this book to then experience a child getting eaten by a boar.
I mean, I'll take that too. I mean, that also makes sense. I can. This is like his fucked up way of saying, "Ha ha, gotcha."
Gotcha. Thanks for spending, I don't know, $15 on my book.
I mean, probably too I used to watch a lot of French horror. I don't really watch too much French horror anymore, but like
they are messed up.
They are, but like French horror has always struck me as they show everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, Martyrs. Holy fuck!
I love Martyrs. It's one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched it twice. I've only seen it once. So I'll never forget it.
This is the thing. This is the thing with French horror. You don't need to rewatch it or reread it.
But
because it sticks with you.
It's super graphic and super fucked up. But there's always this philosophical, like, underlay to what's happening.
Yeah, there's always some kind of commentary that is like buried underneath all the shock value and the gore and just the ridiculousness of it.
Because they try to blend the violence and the gore with like some sort of philosophical element, and like that's why I kind of see the whole like Enzo you thing kind of reflected back on the reader, because it adds to the philosophical element where he kind of brings in the whole violent stuff from earlier on the book, where making the reader feel complicit in what's happening on the page.
Interesting. I don't know.
I mean, Matt, you have kids. We understand why you wouldn't delve into that.
It's one. I don't know. I think that's an interesting idea of just bashing your reader by making him feel like you're the one that did all of this after you bought the book. I'm just looking at it that way, but no, like I definitely.
You're looking at it in a very literal way. I'm looking at it more of like an interpretative way.
Yeah, that's fair. And who knows? I think you're right though with the whole idea of like he had this awesome boar scene in his head, and he's like, I need to write something around that.
I mean, to be fair, that boar scene's pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's just. And with the rest of the dust, this goes into graphic detail.
Oh, he describes every single thing that happens.
Every single thing. And it doesn't shy away from putting like the agony of being eaten alive there.
Yes.
I love, and this goes to the Murphy's Law thing. I love how the boar only attacks Enzo.
Yeah, it just doesn't see
the bar in his pocket.
Yeah, it doesn't even see the body of the teacher, or doesn't even see Hugo. He's like, nope, I see this wriggling, breathing thing trapped to a pole, and that is my dinner.
Well, it even gets worse because he takes
the trapped to him because of the bar that's on him. That's on him.
So Enzo, for listeners, he steals all the food that they brought, so he's got all his food with him, so he's not starving. But yeah, the boar comes because Hugo tied Enzo up because he didn't want to kill him. He just was like, I can't have you wandering around the woods anymore. The boar comes because of the food, but then also, to kind of get to your point too, is like he does take a break because for fun listeners, this is an all-night affair, this boar eating. But
Yeah.
the boar like gets bored and walks away and goes does like nudge the teacher for a minute, but he's like, I don't want this dead meat. I like this fresh meat. So comes back just to put it in our heads a little bit more, people, while you're reading this, of a boar. Like, not only did he give him a little bit of a breather of like, hey, maybe, because of course he's alive through all of this chomping and eating and getting kicked in the face and eaten in the face. I mean, like, you get it all. And he's alive through it all. But like,
it does get eaten off.
I know. And so like, it's just this horrible thing. And it like, you get that little break where you're like, oh, well, maybe this is the point where Enzo will die and the boar will be wandering off. But then he's like, no, you know what, reader? I'm going to have him come back and eat some more. It's like, damn it. I want this to be done.
Yeah.
And then there's also like, not to, because that's like the big intense scene at the end, but like to go back to this fourth wall breaking, if I remember correctly, isn't there like a rando scene where he's describing like, doesn't he describe like bugs or a mushroom or something?
I think he does.
I feel like there's like a random scene where he's like, I'm going to take a little break from all of this and go like point this camera off at, I don't know, something. I can't remember what it is. I could flip through it, but I just remember like this little, like, and it's only like a page, but it's just so random where you're like, what are we doing? And then it goes right back into it. But
yeah,
it's just...
I think it was kind of like a palate cleanser, both for him and for the readers.
Yes. Oh man. So,
but what really fucked me up about this story was that it gave me hope, and I'm so fucking angry. It gave me hope because I actually thought at the end that Hugo would live.
I know.
And then I remembered, no, they all died. And the end of the fucking book is basically, they found him in a ditch. And I was like,
yeah. And you don't even know how.
No, they just he just said, no, they just found him in a ditch. I'm like, what? Did he fall? Did he starve? What happened?
One thing though, I will say I'm happy he didn't show us is what happened. Was it Julia? The chaperone Enzo killed her daughter? Jade.
Yeah. Jade.
I'm happy they didn't show us what Enzo did to Jade.
Yes, I agree.
I feel that would have been too much.
Yes.
In a book
which is funny for too much book.
For too much. I think that would have been too much.
Yeah.
This was something.
I would not be fucking surprised if they actually adapted this into a French movie.
You know, I agree.
This would track completely with how I understand French cinema.
Mm-hmm. And I just hope to God they don't I don't need to see this visually.
No.
It's etched into my mind already. I don't need to see it visually.
Yeah, that's okay.
That boar scene though. I'll never forget the poison berries or the boar.
Yeah. Like I said, this book sticks with you.
It's crazy.
It really does. I know, listeners, that we have been joking around and stuff, but this was a heavy fucking book.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And it was depressing as fuck.
I also think it hit Matt differently because Matt has kids.
Yes, it did. It was funny to see your progress along on our Discord.
I was just started it and I'm like, okay, this is something, and then finally I was like, I'm just gonna burn my way through this because the longer I have to linger with it, the worse it's gonna get. So that's why you were getting all that. I'm like, almost done. I'm almost close. Fuck, this book sucks.
Yep.
I can't. It's just, it hits a little too real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I compare it to Jack Ketchum. Is it feels like a Jack Ketchum story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. and it's a huge compliment for Gregoire Courtois to be, compared to Jack Ketchum.
Oh yeah.
Like he's friends Jack Ketchum.
he just, yeah, it's so be ready for that. If after all of this you're like, yeah, I kind of want to read this.
I mean, I'd say give it a go. It is, you know what you're getting yourself into. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Yes.
I knew what I was getting myself into, and even then, once I got to the poison berry scene, I had to like put the book down and go for a walk for a little.
I already told you, I warned you about this book, but I still, I encourage you to enter the trauma with me.
Yeah.
Just like I kind of pushed Matt's hand into entering the trauma with us.
Yes.
Like, I remember you describing it, and I was like, oh man, I don't know about this.
Yes. And I also, I did the comparison of saying like, oh, Enzo is, by the way, the kid from Troop.
Yeah. Yes. Or freaking what? Macaulay Culkin from The Good Kid or whatever.
The Good Son.
Yeah.
Good Son.
Yeah.
So, yep, there's that.
So all of you out there, just enter the trauma with us.
Yeah.
Don't be an Enzo.
No. Be a Hugo.
Hugo.
Yeah, be a Hugo. Do it.
Just don't die in a ditch.
Yeah. This is a very heavy read, but it's. I found like one thing I found interesting about it, and we're kind of winding down near the end. Like he doesn't do it a lot, but I think he uses enough where he's kind of bringing in this aspect of like our relationship with the violence that we're reading on the page. And I found that to be like interesting because as a writer, like when I write, one of my main things in writing is looking at the effects of violence and the effects that violence has on people and our own relationship to violence. So I thought that was pretty interesting and how we kind of brought that into this book a little bit, just because it's something I kind of focus on in my writing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's an interesting relationship between mankind and violence. And by bringing that to 6-year-old children, I think gives it a whole different feeling than how it would feel normally.
Yeah, it's interesting though that you bring that up because like we said, honestly, like Enzo only kind of kills maybe 4, maybe 5 of people. And this is like a big group. The rest of them all die just by...
He kills Jade's mom.
Yeah.
He kills Jade. That's 3. I think he kills one more person besides that.
He kills also one of the boys who watched the girl drown.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
I think Tristan was the name, I think is.
Yeah. So like just saying, like, it's interesting that because if that was his goal, was to be like, look at this violence, honestly, majority of what it almost feels like his look at, like, see how dangerous nature can be, like, don't go out there because you're gonna whack your head, or you're gonna eat something and die, you're gonna drown. And so like
fall down a hill and die.
Yeah, so like if we were gonna go with the violent angle, like they would have, I don't know, he could have done it a different way. So I honestly, I mean, maybe that's what he was going for, but it, like for me, I was just like, I'm not sure what he's trying to say here.
I think this is definitely one of those books where you can take to a college and you can have a field day with the discussions of what the theme is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
it's gonna be a multitude of themes. You can interpret so many things about this book.
It's Winnie the Pooh meets Blair Witch Project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. One of that being that.
Yeah, which, you know what, like yeah, exactly what you're saying. I think that's a huge compliment too, is to say you've written something that can be dissected and seen from different ways, and like it's still, despite the visceral reaction I had from it, it's still written really well, and there's still like like it captivated me enough to where I was able to sort of look past everything that happened and be like, I want to know what's going to happen next. So that I think that's good. It didn't just fall in, we've talked about other like splatterpunk and extreme stuff where it's just sort of extreme for the sake of being extreme. It's tough to say. I don't think this wasn't that. So I think that's interesting and kind of like a neat thing that he did, because you could look at it in many different ways. So I'll give him that.
I'd say this is a pretty fruitful discussion.
I think so.
I don't think we had any poison berries come up here besides the ones that are...
But, I will have to say before we wrap up, I did have to crack up. I was looking through Goodreads, and one of the comments somebody had was like, France, are you okay?
My response to that will be watch Martyrs and then tell me.
And ask again.
But yeah, I think like this is definitely an interesting book. It's not one. It's a book I'm happy I read. Like The Girl Next Door, I'm happy I read it. I'm not going to revisit it anytime soon. This is a really just. It takes a lot of effort to keep your mind in that space, and this book definitely fucks you a lot. And I'd say we're going to go from we're going to go from a happy subject in today's podcast to next week. I have made a decision for us. And I think Villamay is happy with this. Next week, we're going to be discussing Shiver by Junji Ito, which contains his great story, Hanging Balloons.
Awesome.
And this one's actually called Hanging Blimp. But it has other really great stories in it too, especially Fashion Model's great, and The Long Dream is also great. So there's some really good stuff in this collection. So we're going to cover Shiver by Junji Ito. And Villamay, where can listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on Twitter at Villamayas.
And Matt, what about you?
Also Twitter, Brandenburg DM.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088, and be sure to give Abyss a follow with @IntoStaring. And this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.